the chair of the Shrewsbury Select Board. On behalf of my fellow board members and the town manager's office, I want to welcome you to our October 22nd, 2024 Select Board meeting. Tonight's live broadcast is being brought to you by Sarah Hashi of the Shrewsbury Media Connection. Tonight's meeting will also be available via the Shrewsbury Media Connection on YouTube starting tomorrow. All of our previous meetings are also currently available on the same platform. As we traditionally do, before we begin, I ask that our members introduce themselves.
I'm Beth Cassavant.
Michelle Conlon.
Carlos Garcia.
Town Manager Kevin Mizikar.
Assistant to Town Manager Justin Dobson.
And again, I'm John Samia, Chair of the Select Board, and thank you for joining us this evening. First item on the agenda under preliminaries to approve bills, payrolls, and warrants.
So moved.
Second.
Have been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Next item on the agenda is to review and act to approve the minutes of September 28th, 2024, the Spirit of Shrewsbury Expo held at St. John's, October 8th, 2024 meeting, and October 17th, 2024 roundtable.
Mr. Samia, I was not present for the Spirit of Shrewsbury Expo, so I will abstain on that.
So why don't we take them separately? So let's take we'll break them apart. So let's take the September 28th, 2024 meeting minutes first.
Move approval.
Second.
I've been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
So 3-0-1 abstention. And then entertain a motion for the October 8th, 2024 and October 17th, 2024 minutes.
Move approval.
Second.
Have been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is under announcements, reports. Members, any announcements? Michelle.
Mr. Samia. Last week, we filmed our October 2024 Select Board Roundtable at the Shrewsbury Senior Center Food Pantry with our special guest, Council on Aging Director Holly Luke. We discussed several initiatives happening at the Senior Center, including the new food pantry, which is open to seniors age 60 and over and their families, making Shrewsbury a dementia-friendly community, and the emergency kits that will be available for seniors in the community later this month, and more. You can view the episode at shrewsburymediaconnection.org or on the Shrewsbury Media Connection YouTube page. For more information about the resources available for residents at the Senior Center or information on how to donate or volunteer, please contact the Outreach Coordinator Renee D'Argento at 508-841-8647.
Thank you. I just have one announcement. The Worcester Regional Transportation Authority, WRTA, is hosting stakeholder meetings to evaluate the service needs of Shrewsbury, Westboro, and Northborough. There are upcoming regional meetings targeted at particular audiences as follows. October 28th, Disability Commission and Advocates, 1:30 to 3 p.m. October 28th, COA and Senior Centers, 3:30 to 5 p.m. October 29th, Economic and Business Development Groups, 12:30 to 2 p.m. On October 30th, Planning and Public Health from 11 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. All of those regional meetings will be held at the Great Hall in the Forbes Municipal Building, 45 West Main Street, second floor in Westboro, Mass. For those interested in attending, town staff will post this information on the website. There are also two virtual forums as well. November 13th, MBTA users meeting, which is virtual, and November 21st as well, a community forum, which will be virtual. So that's all we have for members' reports. Next item on the agenda is town manager's report. Is there anything to report, Mr. Mizikar?
I don't have anything this evening.
Okay, thank you. Next item after that is public comment. This is pursuant to Select Board Policy 31. This is an opportunity to offer citizens a chance to provide public comments during Select Board meetings on matters within our authority. No one tonight has expressed the desire to present in front of us. Those wishing to speak at a regularly scheduled meeting should notify the chair through the Select Board's office by the end of business on the day before our meetings, by written correspondence or email at selectboard@shrewsburyma.gov. Just a reminder that we host office hours from 5:30 to 6:30 at our first Tuesday meeting of the month, which is usually the second Tuesday of the month, but our first meeting every month. We hold office hours right across the hall from 5:30 to 6:30. Those are not on camera. It provides an opportunity to ask questions, and we're happy to hear from you and look forward to meeting with you. The next item now is under meetings and hearings. We have a meeting with Timothy McInerney as Director of Public Works and Daniel Rowley, Superintendent of Water and Sewer, to discuss the current status of the Water and Sewer Division. Good evening and welcome. you could introduce yourselves. I gave a partial introduction. If you could introduce everyone up. And thanks for coming.
I'm Tim McInerney, I'm DPW Director. Dan and his team are here to present some information relative to the operation of the sewer department and water. As you know, I started 6 days ago, and I'll just report to you that you have extremely competent staff, and I'm extremely fortunate to try to add value to this organization, so I appreciate the opportunity to be of service. And I'm gonna let Dan go right into it. We're about 24 slides for you all.
All right.
Welcome.
Thank you very much, Tim. As Tim said, tonight we have a presentation about the Water and Sewer Division, a little bit about the system, some of the projects we have going on, and I'm honored tonight to bring with me some key members of the staff that you folks often don't get a chance to meet. These are some key leaders in our operation who literally are part of a team that functions 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So to my right is Jennifer Wright. She is our program manager. Next to her is Andy Bondar. He is our assistant superintendent of operations. And then next to him is Tim Maroney, who is the assistant superintendent of treatment systems, water storage, and pumping systems. So I'll begin telling you a little bit about my role and the way I see our division functioning. Is I am really the key person for administration. Mr. Bondar has really the oversight of all of the mechanics out in the field for water and sewer distribution and sewer collection, and then Mr. Maroney is in charge of the treatment plant, water tanks, and booster stations. So that's kind of how we dissect it. As the superintendent, a number of key items that I focus on: employee recruitment, training, and retention. Our staff consists of one public works director, one superintendent, two assistant superintendents, two crew leaders, one treatment plant operator, one assistant water treatment plant operator, 5 water and sewer technicians, 1 water and sewer specialist, 3 water and sewer laborers, 1 field engineer, and 1 program manager. That comprises our team. The other items that I oversee: environmental and regulatory compliance, budget development and management, short and long-term planning for operations and capital improvements, procurement for supplies and services, water and sewer connection permit review and approval, oversight of capital improvement project design, procurement, and construction, outreach coordination for projects and water service interruptions, and licensing and training of drain layers, who are the contractors who do work on our systems. I'll ask Jen to share a little bit about the 2 systems.
Thank you, Mr. Alley. A little bit about Shrewsbury's water system. There's over 207 miles of main. There's 9 gravel-packed wells. All of the water is treated at the Home Farm Water Treatment Plant. The town's divided into 3 different pressure zones with 6 storage tanks and serves over 11,600 service connections. There are over 1,500 fire hydrants and over 2,000 water gates in the system. Little fact that in 2023, a total gallons pumped is over 1,400,000,000. In one day in 2023, the largest volume pumped was 4,634,000 gallons. We are a licensed D3 T3 system. There's approximately 95% of the town has available water service, and the select board serves as our water commissioners, which were established in 1905. The wastewater system consists of over 169 miles of main, 39 pump stations, over 4,000 sewer manholes, and most of the sewer is treated at the Westboro Regional Facility, with some flow going to Upper Blackstone and some to the town of Grafton. There is a 3-member sewer commission overseeing the system, which was established in 1963. And now presenting the water and sewer field operations, Mr. Andrew Bondar.
Good evening, and thank you for having us tonight. As Jennifer had mentioned, the town has 39 sewer pump stations. Each sewer pump station is inspected each day to ensure proper operation. This includes daily maintenance checks of sewer pumps, motors, valves, computer control equipment, with immediate repairs made when necessary. Some of our other common daily tasks are water main flushing, valve cleaning and exercising, as well as hydrant maintenance, all in an effort to ensure proper operation in the event of emergency. We conduct system flow testing to ensure the capabilities and the capacity of the water distribution system. Also, our operation team oversees and inspects the installation of new water and sewer services as well as repairs. The town's cross-connection and backflow program is instrumental in the protection of the drinking water system. We typically test and survey over 1,000 devices over the course of the year. Operations staff conduct monthly meter reading for billing purposes as well as daily service calls to residential homes and businesses to address any concerns they might have, including high usage, inside and outside leaks, meter changeouts, as well as sewer backups. The operations team is responsible for 24/7 emergency response for water main breaks, service repairs, as well as sewer backups. Next slide, please. There we go. Here's a few pictures from our various day-to-day operations. First, we have hydrant flushing, which helps maximize water quality. It allows it gives us the opportunity to inspect and test hydrants as well as make repairs when necessary. Hydrant flushing also assists with our valve cleaning and exercising program to ensure proper working valves and hydrants in the case of emergency. The second picture is our new vac truck we recently took delivery of. In this case, it was assisting with an emergency water main repair. Vacuum excavation has many advantages. It is faster, much more efficient, and a lot safer for staff to operate. The next picture is the completed water main repair of a 12-inch water main. On the bottom row, the first picture is our largest sewer pump station, Maple Ave. This is where all of Shrewsbury comes together. The 3 pumps pictured next pump an average of at least 1 million gallons per day. And the last snapshot is the snapshot of an inside of a sewer manhole during the inflow and infiltration inspection process. Next slide, please. Yep.
Hello, good evening. So all the water that for the town is made at the Home Farm Water Treatment Plant. It opened in October of 2018. It has the capability to produce 7 million gallons of water a day. Treatment processes at Home Farm consist of a pH adjustment, biological manganese removal, chlorination, and fluoridation. Water treatment operators will also conduct all sampling required by state and federal compliance. To get to the plant, it'll not load. Okay. So to get water to the plant, we have to pump it up from wells, and the plant is serviced by 5 on-site wells and 4 off-site wells. The 2 here in this slide are the 2 highest producing wells for the town. Roughly 50 to 70% of all the water for the town is from these 2 wells. The well on the left that somehow is not up there is our 6.5 well is 100 feet deep, and its flows can exceed over 2,000 gallons a minute. We generally operate between 1,000 and 1,500 gallons a minute based on system demand, seasonal demand. And one of the newer wells is the one on the right, is the 6.6 well, 90 feet deep, generally operated at flows of 500 to 700 gallons a minute. Oh, there's the
There
picture.
it is.
Thank you.
So after we pump out of the ground, it goes into the plant, is injected with a dose of potassium hydroxide, and then it's flowed through one of these 4 Mangazer biological removal filters. These filters have reduced the town's manganese levels to non-detect levels since 2018 when it went online. Water goes through these vessels at about 500 to 900 gallons a minute. Water enters through the top of the vessel through that green pipe you can see there, and then out the bottom, after which the water is sent into a clear well, treated with chlorine, orthophosphate, and sodium fluoride. In the clear well, it establishes a 4-log removal for the reduction of 99.99% of bacteria and other microorganisms. And then once it's through the clear well, it goes out to the town for consumption. This is a picture of our lab here to ensure proper chemical dosing and measure filter media effectiveness. Plant operators will conduct a variety of water quality tests, chlorine, pH, fluoridation, and manganese levels. The lab will also continuously monitor pH and chlorine on those inline analyzers you can see to the left of the sink. So those are always on. Once the water leaves the plant, it goes to one of 6 water storage tanks located across the town. This tank is up at Masonic, or Prospect Park. It's a 66-foot high tank and can hold 1 million gallons of water. The 6 tanks have a combined capacity of 5.8 million gallons, and water is moved from tank to tank through via a system of booster pump stations that operate in the 3 different pressure zones.
Ongoing and current projects. The inflow and infiltration investigations are done annually for years 1 through 12, with 1/12 of the town completed each year. The town's completed the first phase of the annual investigations for years 1 through 12 and is on year 1 of the second phase. The inflow and infiltration construction improvements went out to bid in September for improvements to 13,800 linear feet of sewer. The scope of work includes cleaning and inspection, testing, sealing, and excavation repairs to damaged pipe, lining manholes, and replacing cast frames and covers to reduce the flow of water into our sewer infrastructure. Work is expected to last 1 year. The Clue Street Sewer Expansion and Pump Station Construction Project. In August 24, the project was awarded to contractor J.A. Polito and Sons to install gravity sewer on Clue Street, to replace water main on Clue Street, and for the construction of a new sewer pump station at the intersection of Clue Street and Memorial Drive. The Orchard Meadow Sewer Pump Station will be decommissioned and the flow redirected to the new pump station once online. Construction is expected to take 1 year to complete. The Rolfe and Maple Sewer Pump Station Rehabilitation and Force Main Replacement projects are currently out to bid and will be awarded in the next couple of weeks for springtime construction. The contract for the Walnut Street Sewer Pump Station Rehabilitation and Gravity Sewer Main Replacement is still currently out to bid and will be awarded in the next couple of weeks for springtime construction. I apologize. It's still in the design phase and will go out to bid in winter time of 2025. The Oak Street Water Storage Tank Rehabilitation Project was bid in June 2024 and is in the process of being awarded. Work is expected to begin in summer of 2025. The water main replacement projects in 2024 has occurred on both the upper and lower sections of Oak Street, on both Fruit Street, and are currently in the process of completing Roman and Highland Drive. This contract was awarded to Halleck Water Contracting and began in spring and is anticipated to complete by fall of this year. The water meter replacement program project has been ongoing since January of this year, with the goal to change over the current advanced meter reading process to partner with Selco's advanced meter reading infrastructure. A bid for water meter endpoint modules was received on October 8th of this year, and the meter replacement program is anticipated to open a request for proposals in January of 2025 to replace residential meters. The PFAS treatment plant project will go out to bid in spring of 2025, and construction is planned to break ground in summer of 2025. And back to Mr. Rowley to further discuss the PFAS treatment plant addition.
All right, thank you, everybody. That's quite a list of projects we have going on. It's about $40 million in capital improvements that we are undertaking, which it's an exciting time to be in the water and sewer division because we have a lot of great projects and improvements going on. I wanted to spend a few minutes tonight just providing an update on the PFAS treatment plant. I know we talked about it last at town meeting when the authorization to borrow $18.5 million through the state revolving fund was approved. So we've reached the point where the design is finalized. We've submitted it to Mass DEP as part of the process, and we are awaiting comments back from them, which will be due probably around the December timeframe, putting us in position to go out to bid in January, and we have to have the project under contract by the end of June of next year, if if everything goes according to plan. So what you're seeing in this slide is just an overview of our current water treatment plant. You'll see in the front the solar panels, which are on top of the foundation of the former treatment plant. You'll see behind the plant there's a large grass plot and an access road that goes around it, and that is where our addition is going to go. Next slide. So this is what the proposed plan is. The plant on the box in the lower part of the picture is the existing plant, and the box above it is the addition they're proposing. There will be a separation between the two buildings. There'll be an enclosed walkway for operators to go between the two buildings to see, to check on equipment and to maintain the facility. Next slide, Justin. So this is a layout of what that facility will look like. I don't know if should I stand up and point to the different things? Would that be easier? I'll stand up and.
You just gotta stay close to that mic.
Okay.
Yeah, Dan.
So on the upper right side, we are adding back in air strippers. We had them in the previous plant. They will naturally raise the pH of the water. They're also, in years past, they were used for VOC removal, which has mitigated itself, but this will reduce our use of potassium hydroxide in the process. So the water will be pumped. It will go through those air strippers into a clear well, and then it gets pumped over to the existing treatment plant. If the pH needs to go up a little bit to the optimal level for the biological removal of manganese, we will do it with potassium hydroxide. We're hoping that we will see a major reduction in potassium hydroxide. It will go through those filters, and then it will come back to this building, and there's 5 trains of PFAS filters in series. There's a lead and a lag. It will go through them depending on the flows, and then back to the existing treatment plant where we will add sodium hypochlorite, sodium fluoride, polyphosphate, and then it'll go through the clear well and out to the distribution system.
Thank you.
With that, we are happy to take questions.
I'll ask a question. I'll have a few more, but then I'll open it up before I come back. What happens to the PFAS once we take it out of the water?
So it will go into the media in the filters, and then it'll have to be disposed of.
Okay.
And that will be determined as there are facilities that take it, and we'll see where we're at. We're expecting the construction to take a couple years, so we're probably 3 years down the road, and we'll see where that is.
Okay, thank you. Open it up to any questions. I have a few more. I'll hold them, but any questions? Michelle, go ahead.
Excuse me. With the inflow and infiltration construction improvements, you said that is broken into 12 phases, in one section is done every year. With the construction improvements that are happening, is that the result of the investigations into all 12 sections, or is this something like every year as each section is completed, there will be improvements the following year?
That's a great question. So every year we do a section of the town over the 12-year program, and then every third year we'll do a construction improvement project. And that way we have bigger numbers. We get the volume of the discount with the workers mobilizing and things like that. So it's the last 3 years. It's years 10, 11, and 12 of the program.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Some more questions. With PFAS, so my understanding is the technology to detect levels of PFAS in our water have changed, and it has made the ability, it's given us the ability to detect smaller quantities of PFAS in our water, and then as a result of that, the EPA standards changed, which has put us sort of outside of, I don't know if it's current or upcoming EPA standards for PFAS in the water.
So it is it's the upcoming, well, I guess they would be current, but they're enforceable in 2029.
Okay.
And it's the limit of PFOS and PFOA of 4 parts per trillion each.
So I understand the town was awarded some funding to put towards the construction of the PFAS treatment plant, and there's litigation underway. Is that?
So we're part of a class action lawsuit that's in federal court right now to try to recover costs from some of the major producers. We have received a preliminary award of about $300,000 from 2 of the companies. We expect future awards in the same litigation to be much higher. So we will be dedicating those funds once we receive them to applicable projects like the construction of the treatment plant and other improvements. We are using the state's revolving fund for funding or to receive, to bond the project, which means we'll be locked in at a 2% interest rate, which is really advantageous in today's marketplace. It's half of even what we received on our most recent borrowing, despite having a AAA bond rating. So still meaningful savings with general interest rates being as high as they are.
Thank you, Mr. Rizikar. I have just one more question
Yeah, please, go ahead.
related to that. Mr. Samia had asked about the disposal of the filter media after the PFAS has been removed. I'm assuming that there's a cost associated with that, or do we know what those costs would be, and is that something that the town would be responsible for, or is that cost being passed on to some of those larger producers of PFAS? Is this something we don't know about yet?
Yes, that's a good question. I am not aware of it being passed on at this point. We'll see where any litigation goes. Based on the projections when they did our modeling, they're thinking we should get 4 years out of out of the filters before we need to swap them out. So, by the time we do construction and then get to that point in the road, it would be interesting to see what the landscape is with the whole PFAS environment.
All right, I'm good for now. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing about PFAS, well, it hit wastewater eventually, too. It's going to be around for a while, the multi-district litigation. So it's a good thing that we opted in. Otherwise, going on our own wouldn't have been a really successful endeavor. Any other questions? Yep.
I had some
go ahead.
comments. So I think back to when I started on the board, like 7 years ago, right? Maybe more. The water was brown. It was filled with sediment. I would open up Facebook in the morning and see pictures of people's water, and it looked like coffee. And I think it's really important to step back and think about how far we've come, right? And the progress that has been made. And I think it's a credit, right, to your whole team. And I think it's really important that we pause and think about the work and the commitment and the funding also, right? Because it did cost, money to be able to do that. That went into getting us to this point where you can turn on the tap and your water's clear. We're not chasing sediment and water nowhere near as much as we were. I'm sure that there are the off calls here and there, but it isn't a daily occurrence, at least not that I know of. But one of the things that I see repeatedly, and I hear repeatedly from people, is they still are uncertain as to the safety of our water or the quality of the water. And I was hoping you might be able to talk a little bit about the kind of standards that we adhere to and the way that we're able to maintain our certifications as a water system, I think which connects to EPA, and just the kind of testing that goes on and how people could find out more about the quality of the water, so that there is greater confidence from customers that the water is indeed safe.
Yeah, I'll start and I'll let Mr. Maroney add, certainly. So we are governed by state and federal regulations, EPA and Mass DEP. Mass DEP being the local authority which they have to meet or exceed EPA standards. So we have a whole sampling schedule that we have to follow, from bacteria testing weekly to all sorts of other different parameters. So each year we are obligated to put out a customer confidence report. So we put out to the residents and anybody in the town that wants to read, anybody that wants to read, every system does it. And in that is I will write a page in there talking about the water system, and then we include all of the lab results that we see in there. So I don't know if you want to add any more.
Yeah, I think, I mean, Dan kind of said it all, really. We adhere to the strictest guidelines with our sampling. We can't miss sampling, we can't skip sampling, it has to be done. The DEP will hold us to that standard. You know, like I said, we do daily checks of things that we don't necessarily have to test for, but we do it as an obligation. Like, we're not required to test manganese every day, but we do it every day, just to kind of see where we are level-wise. So I work at the plant, and in my bag is a water bottle with Shrewsbury water in it. I don't have a filter at my house, I don't have a Brita, I just under the sink. So, you know, it's good water, so.
Just as a follow-up,
Sure.
you know, you talk about the manganese, right? I think a lot of the things that we were seeing with our water was because we weren't doing the kinds of maintenance that needed to be done on a yearly basis. And I heard you talk about so many different like maintenance type plans that are in place, whether it's to the infrastructure, right, or it's to the water itself or cleaning the mains. All of those things are really important to keep up with. And so I think, you know, as water commissioners, we talked about making those kinds of investments, making sure that we had the plans in place, which I think were there but weren't necessarily being followed, to make sure that the system was going to operate in a level at which customers could feel confident that when they were going to turn on their tap, the water was going to be clean, it was going to be odorless, they weren't going to have sediment. And I think that's just really important to note also, that we had to put in place, this board had to put in place an abatement policy, which we then rescinded last year because people were no longer needing to apply for abatements because they weren't having to run their water at the outside tap for hours in order to clear it. So again, I just want to note the progress and thank you for sticking with it. I know it's not the easiest, right, when customers are upset about the quality of water, and I know that everyone's worked really hard to make sure that it improved. So when someone does have a quality issue, what is the best thing that they should do?
Should call our office and we will set up a service appointment. We have a person that will go out and take a look and see what's going on. He's been with us for over 30 years and really is, we'll kind of determine the next best step.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you. Well, the community making an investment with the water treatment plant in 2018, it's done what we thought it would, and that goes to the quality of water, which we all drink, right? So it's important to continuously look at our water quality technologies with PFAS, which is continuing. It's a fluid situation, really, with PFAS and PFOA and evolving standards. A few questions. So PFAS technologies change, so you're able to measure parts per trillion. Do you see any other chemicals under the forever chemical umbrella that we're getting any whiff of, or is there, it's going to change as the technology changes, right? We couldn't get into the parts per trillion before. How do we stay on top of that? Or how can we stay on top of that? Because it's changing.
Yeah, and PFAS changed fairly quickly.
Yeah.
From the UCMR3 when it was parts per billion, and then it seemed really quickly the transition to parts per trillion. So one of the things that we watch is the UCMR that comes out, the unregulated contaminant monitoring rule, and that's a good kind of look into the future of what could be a future chemical that they're looking at. This year they tested for lithium, which we didn't see high levels of lithium, but there's certainly a lot more of it out in the environment, so that could be one down the road that could impact water systems. So to see what the data looks like from systems around.
Yeah, and we reacted as quickly as possible. I mean, through the, I think it was special town meeting when we talked about that a few years ago.
It was actually the annual town meeting.
Was it 19 or
May
20?
of 2019, I think.
Yeah, it was that first one. Okay, I was on, yeah. So got out in front of that as soon as we received that. We talked a lot about other things, directional flushing, as opposed to just playing with the fire hydrants and create that. I know we're talking about exercising valves, and we had to replace a lot of valves, but we didn't end up, the valves were in better shape. My recollection was that we originally had thought, given some were buried and some were that. When we exercise the valves, are we seeing a lot of replacement, or is it we're in pretty good shape and then you have normal wear and tear that we're replacing? Is there anything extraordinary that we should be thinking about the next few years in terms of the equipment that's out there?
We haven't seen really anything out of the ordinary when we exercise them. Here and there, there's some that either don't work or break in the process, but nothing out of the ordinary. I think just continue with normal water main projects. I think we should be in pretty good shape.
And as we exercise, as we do the unidirectional flushing, we're not seeing what like it used to be, right? With the zones, we're still doing that.
Yes, yeah.
And it's the 3 zones. How many zones are we doing at a time?
So this year we're actually gonna bring a contractor back in to help me. Andy and his team is doing some, but we're gonna do another kind of big sweep. We'll do at least 3 zones of it this year.
Okay, and when we do that, it's not like early on, as Beth was saying, water would be brown, and obviously it's build up sediment, particularly from the mains to the houses, and it was starting to come out. When we do that, do you see a spike in calls?
No?
No, it's been pretty, we've done some recent flushing and, after everything settles out, after 5, when everyone comes home, we haven't had any calls afterwards, so it seems to be improving.
Okay. And then 2 more quick questions. Will the PFAS water treatment plan, will that impact at all what we're doing with manganese and anything else that we're doing? In terms of syncing that up, it doesn't alter anything we're doing, right? It's just part of the overall process?
No, and it'll be rated to handle the flow of the treatment plant. And the media that we selected, we have the ability to chlorinate and to backflush. So, which was important to us. We heard from other systems where they were seeing a reduction in their ability to produce water through like a biofilm. So, but we should be able to run the plant at its capacity and the biological portion of it as designed. So we expect to go out at non-detect levels of manganese.
Okay. And then the last question, talked a lot about the projects. How do we manage the projects in-house if we have a lot of these going on in terms of, how are they, what's the oversight on those to make sure they keep going? Is it centralized, or how does that work?
So typically I play a key role along with Jennifer, and then we have consultants on both the water and wastewater side. So they'll, if it's a project they've designed, we'll have them assist us in field inspection and some of the oversight of them, just in making sure that what's happening out in the field is what's been designed and is done appropriately.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I have for questions.
One more question.
Yeah, Beth, go ahead.
Talk to me a little bit about the water being hard. You hear that a lot, like it eats your appliances sometimes. Like, what is the cause of that, and is there a remedy?
So hardness is a measurement of magnesium and calcium. So it's minerals in the ground that are present in the water. So I think typically folks will put water softeners in to reduce that.
Okay. Does it impact the safety of the water, drinking wise?
Not.
Like when we
No.
test, right? It's not one of the things.
We don't test for that.
We don't test.
No, I don't think there's even an MCL for it.
Well, it's a
What's an
it's a
MCL?
secondary.
It's secondary, so it's not a primary. Yeah.
So an MCL is a maximum contaminant level. So there's primary items that we test for, and there is a limit that you have to be under. Then there's secondary items which are typically aesthetic in nature, and harness is one of
It's
those.
an aesthetic.
Yeah.
Correct. Okay. Thanks.
Any other questions at all?
I just
Michelle.
I thank you for your comments about, sort of the public trust in the water. I drink the water. My cup here is full of water. My children drink it. And, similar to what you said, like, we don't have a filter. We have the little thing on the fridge, but that's it. There's no, we don't have a osmosis system or anything like that. I think it's really important to, understand that our water is safe to drink. And if residents are curious about our annual drinking water quality reports, if you go onto the town website and you just go into the search bar and say water quality, drinking water quality, the first result that comes up will bring you to the page that has water quality reports. The water is safe. I studied water resources and watershed management in college, and I read these reports every single year, and I believe it is safe for me and my family and for the public to consume. So thank you guys for all the work that you do and for the investments that the community has made over the last 7, 8, 9, 10 years has made a big difference. So I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Mr. Mizikar.
First, thanks for coming. Appreciate you all. You did a nice job explaining what you guys do on a day-to-day basis, and thanks for all that work. It's greatly appreciated. I just wanted to pick up on the comments about the water quality. So in a preview, we're going to be coming back to the board at either the first meeting in November or December with the biannual community survey. And water quality, unfortunately, continues to lag behind the field the actual quality of the water in the field. So I think as we look to build a plan for fiscal year 26 and goals and priorities, that finding a way to market and share the water quality report maybe than we've focused on in the past. Everyone of these folks are, and the rest of their team is busy with their nose to the grindstone to make sure that the water is actually safe to drink, and we probably have to do a little bit more job touting the success that we've had over these last 7 or 8 years of really making the water quality improvements. So a little spoiler, that's an area of concern in the community survey, but it's a perception, not a reality.
Right, and
Change
that's
that.
the hard part, right? Because how do we put out some information to help improve people's confidence in the system? And I hope that people watch this meeting and sort of gain some confidence from hearing the discussion that was had. But again, you're right, it's the perception, and how do we help to kind of turn that around? Because a lot of investment has been made and a lot of progress has been made, and then this isn't like 2017 where the water looked like coffee.
A part of it too, as Dan was saying, you get out its summary, you get out the report. We talked about this a lot at town meeting, and residents or town meeting members had asked questions and say where it's available. We could include that, the annual report, with our communications as well. People miss them sometime, and either point them there or provide the PDF, depending on whatever works for people.
Or maybe even a easier to look at,
Oh, it could
right?
be a
If we
one-pager
pulled out
summary,
some of
yeah.
the highlights from the annual report, because the annual report can be a little technical, it might help to kind of highlight what people are most interested in around water quality.
Yeah, together with a QR code to the bigger report. So we
Exactly,
can test
exactly.
people after it.
Maybe Taylor can put in some pretty pictures and some data.
No, I think it's a good idea.
Data is really important, I think, to look at. And also, when you turn on your tap, you know, the water, it looks good, it smells good.
And it's the constant monitoring too. That's the important piece. It's not, it's required by law. We're always doing it, and we're continuing to invest in
Right.
the PFAS treatment plant as well. So we're always looking at ways to make sure that we deliver healthy, clean water, which we do, but always looking at when a new challenge comes up, we're ahead of it. So great.
Mr. Chair, can I ask one
Oh,
question?
please do.
Do you think their presentation material, it has to go in your meeting minutes anyways, but do you think we just provide that online and maybe I'll link it on local cable as well?
Yeah, we can provide even with our meeting materials too. I think it was,
Because there was a lot of data that I absorbed just sitting here, so they worked hard on it.
I thought it was a great report, and appreciate the questions too. We hear them a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Town meeting, they come up. From residents, we hear it. It's incumbent upon all of us to get the information out there. The
Yeah.
hard work's being done, the diligence is being done, and making sure that our water's safe on a regular basis is always happening. It's just figuring out how we can bridge that communication gap where someone may not know where to go, and we make sure that it's readily available. And if we distill it over one page, great. And if someone wants more details, we can point them to that as well. But I thought it was a really good presentation, clear and concise, and I like how we're doing these. I know this was part of Mr. Mizikar's goals, but this is a really good way off sort of the budget cycle where we learn more operationally. And yeah, during the FinCom budget hearings, we can talk about the dollars behind all of this, which is great, but this is operational and an opportunity to look at what the great work that our town staff does on a regular basis that helps make our community what it is. So, yeah, I think that's great. I think the presentation was great. Appreciate all of you coming. Welcome aboard on your 6th day. Thanks
Appreciate it, thank you.
for coming late.
Keeping track?
Yeah. And no, we look forward to hearing the next report, but well done and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
So next item on the agenda is to review and act on the November 18th, 2024 special town meeting warrant. I will turn it over to Mr. Mizikar in a second. Let me just talk about some upcoming dates, and then I'll turn it over to him to review the warrant itself. So this item requests us to sign the warrant for the special town meeting scheduled to be held on Monday, November 18th, 2024 at 7 p.m. at the Oak Middle School Auditorium. Quick question before we get to the dates of the upcoming hearings. Do we have a second date at all? Do we know yet? If it's
Yeah, I mean,
Tuesday,
we
Wednesday?
we have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday booked at the facility, at the
Okay,
middle school.
okay, so it would be starting November 18th, and we have pour-over dates of the 19th and 20th. So there are upcoming action dates relative to special town meeting. The planning board last Thursday on the 17th, the night we actually filmed our roundtable that Michelle had talked about before, that on Thursday, 10/24, here, Planning Board is having another public hearing on the proposed zoning bylaw change, which will be here at 7 o'clock. So that'll be another opportunity for members of the public to to provide their feedback. Thursday, November 7th, 2024, the Finance Committee, public hearing on the proposed warrant articles, which Mr. Mizikar will go over shortly, and we've gone over our last couple of meetings as well. On Tuesday, November 12th, 2024, we will vote to make recommendations on the proposed warrant articles, and then, as I said before, on Monday, November 18th, 2024, 7 p.m. at Oak would be the first night of special town meeting, with the availability on Tuesday and Wednesday should the need arise. So now I will turn it over to Mr. Mizikar to run through the warrant articles.
Great. So as we're looking at the warrant, it has changed slightly since your last conversation. I'll highlight those things. So we're up to 14 warrant articles. We'll just run through them on the screen, nothing like the actual, going through the actual text. So the first article there is to provide an appropriation to the 300th Anniversary Committee. Folks will remember that we've done this in the past, but given the limitations under the special funds that are allowed to be established under the general laws, that actually restricts any money that we put in there into that special fund until the year prior to the event. We need to make this supplemental appropriation. We're targeting $15,000 to get the committee off and running before they can use the funds that are set aside statutorily. So we'll use those available funds up to $15,000. So I'll provide a little bit higher level of the warrant, and then the board will consider signing it this evening, and then at your meeting on November 7th, in 2 weeks, we'll go through the full details, all the motions, and you'll look to make recommendations on them. So we do need to make some adjustments to the fiscal year 2025 budget. Those adjustments are contained within the fire department, general operating support, pension and OPEB, the Department of Public Works, and the town manager's office of an interdepartmental transfer, and the education budget. So those are in light of additional information that we have, requirements that we need to make at this time of the year that weren't available and known in May. We have the funding to do this because of additional revenues that have been identified as the state's budget was passed in July, and the assessors worked diligently to get new growth certified for us, which is higher than we originally anticipated. Article 3, we're proposing to make some capital improvement investments. These are 2 vehicles within the public safety departments at this time, one in the fire department and one in the police department. Article 4 is new and was not previously identified, but as Mr. Snowden and his team is working through the finalization of the revenues and the expenditure obligations, and in consideration of the board's ongoing request that we limit annual spending within the caps that are provided, we have the opportunity to place additional funds into the override stabilization fund. So this will give us the opportunity to mitigate costs in the future, or have additional revenues in the future to cover required costs. So we're going to make that investment into our override stabilization fund. Article 5 is the appropriation of funding that we receive through the TNC transportation network companies. This is Uber and Lyft. Every time a ride originates in Shrewsbury, we get 10 cents. So we need to make appropriations. We normally hold them for a couple years just because the dollars aren't significant in any single year, but we'll be appropriating about $6,400 from fiscal year 21, $9,800 from fiscal year 22, and about $13,700 from fiscal year 23 from those ride origination fees. Article 7, that is not Article 7, that's line 7. Article 6 is an article we talked a lot about at your last meeting as we continue to mature and evolve the facilities optimization project, both for this facility, but primarily focusing on the work that needs to be done at 211 and 205 South Street for water and sewer, highway, parks maintenance, stormwater operations. So what we're requesting here is the appropriations of fund for continued design work. So there's not a borrowing authorization. We have funds on hand that we want to dedicate, mature and evolve the designs, and then come back in the spring having a really solid understanding of cost, scope, and features associated with those two projects. Again, leveraging two projects at one time will give us the opportunity to alleviate space concerns here at the town hall, provide modern Department of Public Works facilities, and really save costs in the long run and not have to put an addition on this building. Article 8 is making adjustments to the personnel bylaw. Human Resources Director Christina Ordung was again in your last meeting, talked a lot about this. These are changes to various aspects of our benefits system to come in better compliance with our federal obligations and to be more competitive with not only other government entities but the private sector as we recruit and retain employees. This includes broadening the use of sick leave so folks can care for loved ones who are sick through our traditional sick leave program. Also, short-term disability plan adjustments, paid family medical leave as well.
Let's go back to Article 7.
Say that again?
To Article 7.
Oh, I missed Article 7.
No worries.
My apologies.
No worries.
Article 7 is accepting a section of the general laws to allow for expanded investments in our trust funds that we hold on behalf of the town or for particular purposes. This allows us to invest those trust funds in what's known as the prudent investor rule. Otherwise, we're very, very limited to what's called the legal list and very restrictive investments. So this gives us a broader opportunity to make funds with still very risk-adverse portfolio. Think about the other post-employment benefits or OPEB trust being our largest trust fund. It has essentially a 30-year or longer target because we're investing for future retirees' health insurance benefits. So allowing those funds to grow over time means that we have the ability to take advantage of market conditions and lower the out-of-pocket costs for taxpayers in satisfying those obligations. I'll jump ahead to Article 9, which is MBTA community zoning compliance. There's ongoing public hearings. The next one is Thursday night at the Planning Board. That will be their final public hearing, and they'll be voting to make a recommendation thereafter. Article 10 is also new to this list. It is a citizen's petition that has been duly certified by the town clerk, containing a request to change how the planning board is selected within the town of Shrewsbury. Article 11, 12, 13, and 14 are all Community Preservation Committee sponsored items. 3 of those include investments and studies in the First Congregational Church. And the final is a historic gravestone restoration project, adding funds that weren't available in the spring but necessary to complete the full scope of work. So that's 14 articles for the November 18th, 2024 special town meeting. The Finance Committee will be holding their public hearing on November 7th, and then the board will be making recommendations, perhaps entertaining staff presentations and questions and answered at your meeting on the 12th.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions? I have one quick question on, I know you had mentioned under Article 7 that the so-called prudent investment rule is less restrictive but still conservative. Does that change at all insurance requirements for the trustees or fidelity bonds or anything like that? It's still a high standard, so does that alter anything, or is it
Not that
because
I-
it's all investment grade? It's
Yep, no, it's all investment grade. Nothing changes along those lines that I'm aware of.
okay.
And we don't have separately established trustees. All these funds are managed under the direction of the
Okay.
treasurer,
Okay.
and with the advice of our investment advising firm.
Okay, it's probably through the investment advisor then, through their exposure then. Okay, great.
I have a question on Article 4.
Go ahead.
So there's funds now to go into the override stabilization account that weren't there originally when we were discussing. I know this came from some further refinement of our numbers. I'm just curious, where the money is coming from for that, and if there's an amount.
Total new revenue?
Dave, you're probably
Dave.
gonna come up.
Come
Yeah,
up.
microphone.
Thanks, Mr. Snowden. Yeah, if you could come up to the microphone.
Good evening, David Snowden, Assistant Town Manager for Administration and Finance. Total new revenue is, came across through a couple different categories. State aid was higher than initially anticipated when town meeting adopted the budget. There was about $600,000 in new state aid revenue. That was across all state aid categories, so both general government and Chapter 70 funds. Local receipts, based off of the strong growth we've seen in the projections in some of our categories, we've been able to bump up our estimates for local receipts for FY25 as well. And then the last category was new growth, based off of the excellent work from the Assessors Department. We were able to bump up new growth estimate from about 1.25 million to 1.5 million.
That new growth certification would be the highest ever on record for the town. Over $121 million in total new assessed value year over year, which is phenomenal.
That is. What do you attribute that to?
I'm really proud to say it's mostly commercial growth within the community.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you. Any other questions? Not, what's the pleasure of the board?
I move, excuse me, I move the board sign the November 18th, 2024 special town meeting warrant as proposed.
Second.
Have been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. So we'll sign that after the meeting. And then we'll coordinate the posting with the town clerk via constable in Shrewsbury. Next item under new business is to review and act on the 13th annual Turkey Trot for the Memory Road Race on November 28th, 2024 at 8 a.m. beginning in the vicinity of the First Congregational Church. As we know, that it's either a 5-mile run, which a pretty tough course actually, or a 2-mile walk. And it's ending at the intersection of Loring Avenue and Prospect Street. And we had received a supporting memo from Jane Lizotte regarding the great fundraising that's happened throughout the years, as well as from the rest of the board. And the only thing that is noted that they're going to provide the insurance certificate. So if we approve it tonight, it'd just be subject to the provision of the certificate of liability insurance, naming the town as an additional insured. If there are no questions or comments, I'd entertain a motion.
I move the board approve the road race request for the 13th annual Turkey Trot for the Memory as listed on the agenda.
Second.
Have been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. It's a great community event. Next item on the agenda is to review and act on the request from Grant Woodward A&G Construction LLC for a road closure of a portion of High Street to perform water and sewer connections October 29th, 2024 through October 31st, 2024 from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Is anyone here?
No, there's no one in attendance.
Okay,
if you don't mind.
Yeah, it's the same item that we had on October 27th.
September, yep.
Sorry, was
Yep.
it September 27th? Well, it's been in front of us before. It was, they didn't end up doing the work. They'd like to do the same work. We had the questions before about other opportunities to go to High Street. They could, and they were gonna put signage there as well, gonna work as well with the school department. So make sure that the road closure takes place between 9 and 3 to minimize impacts of school drop-off. These are questions that we had asked. We had satisfactory answers, so what's in front of us is just new dates with the same proposed scope of the project. Any questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
My only question is this does, cover Halloween. The work is scheduled to end on Halloween. So just, asking the company to make sure that they are completed by no later than 3 p.m. As we don't want, additional traffic running through neighborhoods when we might have a lot of kids out on the road.
Yes, we'll make sure that happens.
Good. Great. Is there a motion?
All right, I move the board approve the road closure request from Grant Woodward of A&G Construction on October 29th through October 31st, 2024 from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m.
Second.
Have been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Next and last item under new business is to review and act on the recommendation of the Insurance Advisory Committee relative to the Medicare eligible retiree health insurance program for calendar year 2025 pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 32, Section 3. Mr. Mizikar.
Board members, as you're well aware, we participate in the West Suburban Health Group, which is a joint purchasing agreement among Shrewsbury and 9 other communities. So we pool our resources to mitigate risk. We set rates for our retirees over 65 and Medicare eligible plans for calendar years. And this year, we are looking to make these changes in order to be in compliance with the federally required rates and also the self-insured plan. So plans are a little bit different this year. Unfortunately, we are seeing the other side of the impact of the Inflation Reduction Act, which is where the federal government's able to negotiate the cost of prescription drugs. That used to come out of the pocket of the subscribers, and now that the federal government's doing these negotiations and prices are coming down, the premiums are coming up to cover those costs more fully through the insured network. So we've provided the board with a historical review, and you'll see over the last few years we've had very minimal changes, but unfortunately this year across all 7 plans we're seeing a 6.5% increase. But those adjustments on an individual plan basis range from 3.9% to 12.3%. So it is quite a different year for our retirees, but again, it's a result of those changes at the federal level within the prescription drug aspects of the cost of retiree health insurance premiums. So the Insurance Advisory Committee, which is a body of 8 members of staff and a retiree representative, have voted to approve these rates and recommend them to you based upon the recommendation of the West Suburban Health Group Board. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Quick question. So looking at the changes because of the Inflation Reduction Act, as we may expect to see this next year too, because if they continue to negotiate with the 10 highly used drugs as well.
Yeah.
So this may be deja vu again.
Yes,
Deja vu all over again.
unfortunately, yep.
Okay. All right. Any other questions?
So are you saying that it's great for the people who are insured, the retirees, but it's an additional cost to us as a town?
It's a little bit of both, right? So it's just cost shifting. The drugs really haven't changed in price, and it's just how the networks are obligated to cover these costs more fully. So they're increasing the premium, and the retirees, the subscribers, are taking less money out of their own pockets when they're at the counter.
Right.
But they're seeing that on a monthly basis when they're paying their premiums now.
It's cost shifting.
Yes, it's
Oh.
shifting costs.
Okay, gotcha.
So it is really good news that insulin's a lot cheaper, right? That, like, you hear those
But you're still
folks
paying
at the
for it
federal
somewhere.
government, it's just
Yep.
where is that cost being covered now?
Okay.
Any other questions? Not, is there a motion?
A motion to approve the recommendation of the Insurance Advisory Committee relative to the Medicare eligible retiree health insurance program for the calendar year 2025 pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 32B, Section 3.
Second.
Have been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. That is it under new business. We go to correspondence. Under item 11, email dated October 9th, 2024 from Rafang Baj, Boroughs Islamic Society regarding an open mosque day, Westboro and Shrewsbury, that was held last weekend. So noted. Next item is an email dated October 10th, 2024 from Deborah A. Wagner, Massachusetts Department of Revenue regarding notification of free cash approval. Mr. Mizikar, anything on that? Do you want to provide any highlights? or-
Yeah, I mean,
It's good news.
Yeah, we're happy to have, all the work that went in with Mr. Snowden and his team and the accountant and treasurer collector to get free cash certified in advance of town meeting. It's our highest level of certification, $12.5 million in general fee collection, other good retained earnings within our utility accounts, which again, we use for our capital investments and other one-time costs, including things like our upcoming facilities improvement project to mitigate tax bill impacts.
Thank you. Next item under correspondence is an email dated October 10th, 2024 from Victoria Healy, Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities, regarding a letter for Housing Choice Grant Program, so noted. And then the last item under correspondence, an email dated October 15th, 2024 from Salvatore Camerado, 86 Main Boulevard, regarding a request for a slow children sign request. So under Policy 6, the purpose of our policy, which we last revised in October of '21, allows for a uniform response by residents for advisory-type signs that have no enforcement value, such as blind driveway or hidden drive. I believe that this sign is similar to those. They're not enforcement, so under our policy, will not authorize resources for being expended for these signs, but we could work with residents if Mr. Camerado wants those residents to put up the sign through town staff. So I guess we'd get the details from them. We could reach out to Mr. Camerado, get the details, and then at our next meeting. The cost, sounds like it's less than, it's a couple $100, but uniform application of this policy. I remember a couple years ago when we talked about this, or 3 now. But that would be the approach. If we could reach out to Mr. Camerado, get the details, and then take it up at our next meeting if we have the information, and then we could have them work with town staff. That is it on the agenda, unless there's any other points or topics like to be brought up. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you for joining us. Good evening.